Okay, Chuy, welcome back to the second session where we're going to go through a walkthrough about how this was put together so that you can understand the dynamics and things like that of putting together these type of flyers. First thing I want you to write down is the size. Now, typically when we're doing flyers, we typically print them up and pass them out to people's cars and pass them out in stores and things like that. So traditionally we would do the inches and the resolution would be 300 so that we can print them up and we don't lose resolution. Now, if you don't understand what that is, I'll try to explain to you real briefly. Hopefully you already know, and I don't have to get into a lot of detail, but if you don't know, this resolution right here. Now, before we get to the resolution, I'm going to tell you what the width and the side and the height is. It's typically the size of a regular piece of paper. A regular piece of paper is typically 8.5 by 10 actually. That's a regular size of a regular piece of paper, 8 by 5 by 10. So when you're looking at a flyer, this is basically a regular sheet of paper. Now the reason why we make it the regular sheet of paper size is because once we get two sheets out of one, right? So we'll make it this size, and then we can turn the paper to the side, you know, because this is photo size. I mean photo stand up. But if we did a horizontal landscape, we can actually shrink these down, and we'll have two. You understand? We have two flyers if we shrink these down to half its size, and we put it in landscape size. So that's the reason why we go with the width 8.5 by 10 or 11. And then we do the resolution at 300. Now, that's print resolution. Print resolution is 300. So when we print something like this up, we're not going to have any jagged edges, or it's not going to be blurry because the resolution is 300. That's what that means. Now, when we're designing something for computer, the computer never go past 72. So we don't need the resolution to be 300 because we're not even going to see 300 on the computer. We will see the resolution, we'll see 72, and that's going to give us the same crispiness of a printed 300, if you understand what I'm saying. And then if you wanted to go high, for example, if you want to do a flyer for, say, a poster. So this is a regular sheet of paper, but if you wanted to do a poster, you know, a poster is probably 3 or 4 times as high. Well, then you change the resolution to say 600, so you won't lose any pixelation, so you won't lose any resolution. And then if you wanted to do a mural or a banner, then of course you would do something like the resolution would be like 1200, because the bigger they print, the more crispier you want it. So I just wanted to go over those things with you, and that's the different size resolutions that you would want to remember. So right now, for the sake of the tutorial, we're only going to do, traditionally we would do 300. But for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to change this to pixels, and then we're going to put this to 72 so that the files won't be so gigantic. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and hit create. And now, actually, you know what? Here, let me do it over here. As a matter of fact, here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a marquee. We're going to do it the same exact size as this. So how to do that is take this marquee, take the square box, select the whole thing by just dragging and pulling till the whole thing is selected. Copy it. This is another tip. You might want to write this down. This is a tip. This is not something people will teach you. This is one of my own personal tips. When you copy this size, when you go up to file and you hit new, Photoshop is going to remember the size that you copy. It's going to remember that for you, and then you can create a new page with that size. See, so they give you the same exact size that you just copied. So write that down, or pause it and rewind it, and that way you'll know, you know, how to get the same exact size of something that you're trying to copy. All right, so now I'm gonna take this out and drag this and put this on a separate thing here, and then we're gonna drag this over here so we can start creating. All right, so the first things that I would do, and we're gonna go over here and deselect that because it's a distraction. So the first things that I would do, Chuy, is take an overall look at what's going on here, and I'm going to pick a subject. I'm going to go over to my files and place in the bed, and I'm just going to find any person, not nobody in particular. We're going to go to our Adobe here. My computer moving a little slow here. Let me pause this for a minute because I need this to move a little faster. Let me make some adjustments. Okay, Chuy, we're back, and we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. I gotta start back over. Sorry about that. So just bear with me real quick as I get these sizes together. So what I'm probably going to want you to do is, after I do this tutorial, I don't know why I painted down, taped that there. I might want you to do this over again, but I definitely going to want you to do the letters. So a few things. Let's first go ahead and place some type of character in here. So you should have these files, and if you don't, make sure you text me or something so that I can give you access to all of this, because you should have them. I'm just going to go to celebrities, and I'm just going to pick, I don't know, this guy got a hat on. Maybe I'll just pick him. I don't really want to make it a big deal. All right, I'll just pick him. And a couple things. One, we see the background. Now, I would do the background a little different, but I'm going to start off by picking a color here. And I'm going to try to make it as close to that brown as possible. So I hit OK, and then we go back over here, and we'll select our background. But let's make it a layer so we can keep our background by itself. And then let's go and get our paint bucket and paint that brown. Looks like it's got a little bit more red or tint to it, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down, maybe have a little more red to it. Okay, that's good enough. And again, I like things being a little fancier, so what I'm gonna do is create another layer, select the brighter color, which is this more orangey type brown, right? Hit OK, and then we just oops, sorry about that. Here, let me undo. I feel I'm moving too fast. We got to make a vignette, right? So we're going to go up here to our cursor, hit that elliptical tool, and pull and drag down, and release. And keep in mind, we're on a different layer right here. So we go ahead and get our bucket, and we paint inside that. Then we remove the marquee by deselecting, and now we can go to filter, and we're going to blur this layer. Let's blur it so that background can be blurry, not distinguished, and we hit OK. So, and then we want to tone it down a little bit, so I'm going to go to the opacity, kind of pull it down a little bit. All right, something like that. Good. So now we have a solid background, but it's not like solid, you know what I mean? Now let's address something else. We got these little lines here, so I'm going to show you how we're going to accomplish this, right? It's pretty easy, but I'm just going to show you, because if you don't know how, you don't know how, right? How I would approach it, and this is where the magic, and this is what I want you to think about when it comes to Photoshop. I want you to think of Photoshop as a tool. It's a shop. It's a shop. So if you're working on cars, there's not one thing, right? You don't walk in a garage and there's a drill, or it's not one thing. There's a bunch of tools to get certain jobs done. The idea and the goal is to learn what each tool can do. And once you understand what that tool can do, now you have options and a variety of ways of getting the same thing done. So that's what Photoshop is. So I want you to be able to wrap your mind around what Photoshop actually is. It's a tool for photos. It's a shop for photos. And all of these are tools to get things done, okay? So with that being said, let's create another layer. And we're going to attempt to make these little lines. So what I would do here, I would drag, I would get the marquee tool, right? And go to my rectangular, right? And then I will copy and drag, right? And then I would try to line it up as perfect as I can, okay? Now we see that these lines has kind of got some gold things going on, right? So I'm gonna move this up. I'm gonna move my colors up to its pretty gold, right? I'm gonna hit OK. I'm gonna paint inside the whole block. Boom. All right. So how we gonna turn this? How we gonna turn that block into just lines? Well, I'm gonna show you. We still got it selected, right? Go up to your select tool. Go down to your modify. Go to contract. You can either expand or contract. In this case, we're gonna contract it. And let's first try to contract it, let's say 5 pixels, and we can see where these lines are going to go, right? So if we hit OK, we see, if we zoom in, we'll see that these lines contracted about 5 pixels. So if we look what a pixel is, Chuy is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These look 5 pixels. These are pixels. Each square is a pixel. 5 pixels might be too much. Maybe we can do 4 pixels. So let me undo. I'm going to undo. And then we're going to go to select. And we're going to go to modify our selection. Go to contract again. And we're going to pick, let's say 3. Let's pick 3 pixels. So contracting is going to basically shrink 3 pixels down. That's what contract is, right? So I'm gonna hit OK, and now we done shrunk down 3 pixels, right? Now let's zoom all the way out. Now, if I hit delete, we keeps a line here. Let me zoom this right there. What y'all doing? You doing too much, man. Right there. You see that? We just made a line. So let me explain to you real quick what selection is, because unfortunately, you'll be here forever. If I did a session teaching you every single thing that Photoshop do, you'll be here forever. So the best approach of learning Photoshop is by doing tutorials like this, and you learn new tools as you go along. So I'm gonna give you an example of how learning Photoshop, what the procedure or the process is. The process of learning Photoshop is, for example, if you walk into a party and there's a bunch of people playing a game and they having fun, they're playing a card game, and they're having fun, and you want in, they got to teach you, right? But you don't just jump right in and just start playing. And you also they can't tell you one time and then you know the whole game. You actually got to jump in the game and start playing along while they're playing, and then you learn as you go. Well, that is exactly how you have to learn Photoshop. You can't just learn everything. You got to learn bit by bit, 1 tool at a time as you go. And then you get familiar with it, and then your brain start connecting. Okay, well, maybe if I use the marquee tool, I can do this. Or maybe, oh, I know how to get that done. All I got to do is use the brush or the selection tool, and that's how it works. So I'm explaining it to you like that. So anyway, I'm still going to break down the selection tool. The selection tool, let me undo. The selection tool is an extremely powerful tool. You're going to be using that the majority of the time you use in Photoshop. You're going to be using the selection tool and the paintbrush tools. That's going to be an eraser. Those are going to be your main tools that you're going to be using. Oh, and the lasso tool, or this here, the pen tool. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so that's it. But anyway, the selection tool, of course, it selects things. Now you can manipulate what the selection tool, after you have something selected. For example, that's why it says modify here, because after you have a selection tool made, you can modify the selection tool. You can either make a border from the selection tool. You can make it smooth. So if I wanted to, I can make those edges round. Right now they're rigid, like it's a perfect square. But if I hit smooth and I have enough pixels or sample radius, if it's like 100, I'm just going to show you, for example, If there's 100, if I hit OK, you will see that it rounded. So I'm not going to do everything. I'm not going to cover everything, but that's what selection tool does. If you want it expanded, you can expand it 1 pixel. You can expand it 100 pixels. If you want to contract it or suck it in, 1 pixel, as in this case, we did 3 pixels so that we can get this line. You see what I'm saying? Or we can also feather it. That means that, well, feathering it's another story, and I'll get into that later. We don't need that information right now. But feathering it is basically softening up the edges. Okay, so let's go up here and deselect, and now we see we have our little line. You see? So what I'm gonna do is, there's 2 lines here, so I'm gonna take this and I'm just going to drag it down and make another copy, and then just go over here and shrink it. We're going to shrink it. I'm gonna hit enter, and I'm going to use my arrow tools to kind of put it in place. So I'm using my arrow tools on my keyboard, putting it in this place, and now we have 2 layers. Now it's not exactly like that. Of course, we could have did it the other way. So you know the way to do it now. So, and it looked like the line is behind his head, so maybe we can move him up a little bit just to kind of match it up. All right. So look, we halfway there. All right. Now this right here, I'm not going to really concern myself about that. There's a few different things we can do to kind of either get that look. We can use some brushes. Let me see. In this case, let's see if I can find a brush that some type of decorative, decoratory brush. I don't know. I'm gonna see if I got some type of decorations on here. I know I got a lot of brushes, and my computer moving really slow because I got all this stuff going on. I got the recorder going on. Photoshop is not a joke no more. Take up more resources from your computer. All right, I can't find nothing right now. Maybe, you know what? Let me use this here. This is weird enough. I'm just going to use this little weird ethnic box here. And whenever you here's something you might want to write this down. Whenever you pick a brush and you move and you hover over and you don't see the outline of the brush, it's invisible. You always want to, when you pick a brush, you always want to make sure you know what the size of the brush is before you start painting. In this case, I don't know what the size is because I don't see it. Whenever you pick a brush and you don't see your brush, always look and see if your cap locks is on, because if your cap locks is on, then your brush is going to be invisible. So whenever your brush is visible, look and see if your cap locks is on, and if it is, click it, and then you should be able to see your cap locks. Now I just click my cap locks, but I don't see my brush. So the second thing, and you definitely want to write this down, the second thing is, if your cap locks is not on and you still don't see your brush, 9.5 out of 10, that's because it's very big. It's very big. So what you want to do to be able to see it is, you got 2 bracket tools. You got the left bracket and the right bracket. Remember I told you when you got a brush, you can shrink it or grow it. Well, the left bracket shrinks it. So now that I'm hitting the left bracket, now you see it appears. You see that? It appears now. And I can hit the right bracket, and if it get too big, it'll just disappear. So whenever you do that, whenever you don't see your brush, 9.5 out of 10, it's either way too big or way too small. All right. So let's bring it back up to size, and we're just going to decorate our edges with this. I'm going to shrink it down a little bit more, and we're decorated with that. Boom. And boom. All right. So we got the same vibe. Might not be the same thing, but it's good enough. All right, so now let's look at this, and let's approach this circle back here. Now, being a Photoshop expert, there's a million and one ways that I can get this done here. There's a difficult way of doing it, then there's an easy way of doing it. based on what I'm seeing and based on my understanding of what's going on, this don't look like this was created from scratch. This actually looks like some type of mirror. Looks like a frame of a mirror. So with that being said, what I'll do now is go to Google, and I'll go Google image shopping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type gold mirror frames, and I'm going to say gold circle mirror frames, or gold oval mirror frames. Sometimes I get lucky and find the exact thing. Sometimes I have to improvise. So we good. Look, we got a handful of, we got a lot of them. We got a lot of gold oval frames. So with that being said, I'm just going to select one that's that suits close to what it looked like was going on with him. Maybe this here. So Boston. For the sake of the tutorial, we're going to keep it real simple, because I be getting into it. I see a lot, don't you? And I'm almost positive. Oh, look at this one. That look just like it, don't it? I'm almost positive. If I sat here long enough, I'll find the exact one that he was using. But for the sake of moving on with the tutorial, oh, look at this one. What's this here? I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna see if it's actually a PNG by clicking it. A lot of times you really can't find out if it's a PNG. Let me see. Oh, it's not allowing me to copy. All right, so what I like to do here, this is kind of a cheat, and I'm not sure if you're able to do this, but I'm going to pull up a folder, and I'm gonna open up. Yeah, I'm just going to drag this and drop it inside a folder, and then I'm going to drag it from over here and then drag it into here. All right. So sometimes, see, a PNG is all these little black and white and gray squares. That's supposed to not be there if it's a PNG. That's all supposed to be transparent. So I don't know what that's about, but anyway, the problem with that is that I have to extract this myself. So to do that, of course, we're going to go to our magic wand and select everything, and then just hit delete. Select, delete, select in there, delete, select in there, delete. Now I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna explain something to you real quick. When you use this, you might want to write this down. When you use your magic wand tool, it gets tricky, and I'm gonna explain to you like this. For example, right now we got white and gray, but your tolerance is the most important thing when it comes down to using your wand. The reason why, let's say for instance, if our tolerance was at 5 and I hit inside here, that's only going to it's only going to stick as close to the color as possible. So if I chose 1, if my tolerance was 1, then when I select in here, anywhere I select, it's only going to be that one color. It's not going to, you know, give me 2 or 3 other colors. But now watch what happens as I move up. If my tolerance is 10, I can do that. Okay, so it ain't past the threshold yet. Let's see, tolerance 50. Okay, so you see, the higher the tolerance, the more pixels this is going to select. It even selected even some of the grayer of the golds here. You see that? Now what happens if I do like 100? 100, it's picking so much of the light color that it's even picking a little bit of that. So I want you to understand that your wand tool and your tolerance levels is very important, and you're going to always be adjusting your tolerance levels based on what you're trying to extract. So right now we're going to set it to, let's say, 50. And because if you don't set it to 50, you see this little line here, you see it leaves a little border, right? I should have selected you know, that for these anyway, but I'm gonna select it for that. And now we get to get a little bit of those borders there. You see that there? So now when I hit delete, sorry about that, let's move this over. When I hit delete, it's not leaving like a little, you know, obvious trail. All right. So it's not a big deal for this tutorial, but just something, just a note, just a very important note, because you're going to be using the selection tool a whole lot for a lot of different reasons. You're going to be pulling that up for, you know, for a lot of reasons. Okay, so let me hit deselect. Also, what's inside of there is some type of, look like a globe or something. So let me here. Let's do this. Let's use the selection tool and select inside of that. If you use your selection tool and you're only getting like half of a selection, you can hold shift and select other parts to finish out that selection. All right, but obviously, as we see here, it looked like it selected more than we wanted. But for the sake of the tutorial and the fact that this is going to be behind him, we're not going to worry about it. But what I do want to do is, after we select that, I'm going to go over here and select another layer, because we're going to put a gold something in there. So let's get our bucket. Let's paint our bucket a little dark. I'm going to paint inside. And then we're going to make another layer. Yeah, let's deselect this. We're gonna make another layer, and let's make an optical tool in there. Circle. Let's paint inside that circle yellow, a little brighter yellow. Let's paint in there with the bucket. We're gonna paint yellow. And we're gonna deselect and move this over, and then let's blur this. You already know how to do that. I'll go to our Gaussian blur and kind of make it like mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? We're gonna slide this up a little bit, and we're gonna hold control. We're gonna go to our layers, hold control. I gotta hit Control E, but you hit Command E. All right, and I'm gonna select this, invert, and delete, so we can clean out some of that fade, that fuzz. Deselect, and this pretty much can be it. I'm not gonna make them black lines back there, so I'm gonna just hold Control E or Command E, and now that we got our mirror made, let's go ahead and put it behind the character. And let's zoom in here. Let's adjust it according to proper size. All right, let's see here. All right, I'm gonna stretch this out. I'm gonna hold shift and pull it so it can kind of have more of a circular vibe going on there. And let's select this guy, move him down a little bit so we can actually see the little thing behind us. Okay. So far you see how we can pretty much come very close to this. You know, we're very close to what's going on right here. We got some little speakers there. I think I got some speakers. We ain't even gotta go online and look for them. Let's look. Let's see here. I think I got a lifestyle folder, lifestyle right here. I think speakers isn't there, right there. I got to go with speakers. So let's hit them boys, and let's use our marquee tool. Our magic wand, and select around them and hit delete. Okay, you see what happened? When I used my magic wand and I tried to delete, this popped up. Could not complete your request because the smart object is not directly editable. So let me explain to you what a smart object is. A smart object, when it used to, Photoshop automatically converts everything into smart objects when you import it now. They used to didn't do it. In the past, you had to make the layer a smart object. But now it automatically becomes a smart object when it's imported. And the reason why it's a smart object is because it keeps the resolution when you adjust the size. It keeps the resolution. So for example, let me deselect this. Let's zoom into this here. So if you see that these pixels here, we see little pixels, pop, 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 right? If we zoom it out far enough, you know, the naked eye don't see it. But if we zoom in far enough, we start seeing it. What happens is that if we wanted to make this large, if it was not a smart object, if this was not a smart object, I'm gonna hit enter. If this was not a smart object, when we zoom in, we would see, we wouldn't even have to zoom in to see all the pixels. By it being a smart object, it automatically keeps the resolution at its highest quality. So that's a good thing. Sometimes it can be an inconvenience, but you have to just get used to it. It's a good thing when an image is imported and it keeps its resolution, because you is going to want to adjust the size according to your image. All right. So by me shrinking it, by me blowing it up, it keeps its size, it keeps its resolution. So that's a good thing. So what you have to do to now, if you wanted to manipulate this or change it or cut anything out, you have to right click and convert it. Not convert it. You want to rasterize it. You want to unconvert it from a smart layer. So you want to rasterize it. So write that down. Images, all images imported is going to automatically convert to a smart object automatically. But to manipulate it, to do anything like to cut it, to change the color, to do anything like that, you have to rasterize it, basically make it a raw format that you can manipulate. All right. So that's the reason why when I hit that selection tool, I couldn't delete, because it was locked as a smart object. So again, a smart object allows you to keep the resolution when you're adjusting the sizes. But once you get the size that you want, you can unconvert it from a smart object to a rasterized layer. So now I can hit delete, go up here and do some deselection, and I'm going to shrink this down and put it over here. And since these are silver, I'm just going to desaturate this. So to do that, and just go up here to the image adjustments and desaturate. So we just make that black and white like that. And then let's drag this under him and slide it over a bit. And then let's make another copy. We'll drag the same layer to the plus sign. So now we got two copies. And to make this symmetrical, we're going to go over to image, or to transform, flip horizontal. You can hold shift and one of your arrow keys on your keyboard, or you can drag it. I like to hold shift, you know, or you can move it like that. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. All right. So he's kind of he's not looking too good. Let me right click, rasterize him, so I can manipulate his color. So I'm gonna go to adjustments, go to levels, and just to adjust the levels so that he can be more contrasty. And then probably go over to sharpen. Where's, oh, sharpen tool is over here. Sharpen, and then unsharp mask. Bump it up a little. I don't even know if it did anything. Okay, but anyway. All right, so that's cool. So now we're looking at both of them. We're getting pretty close there. Getting pretty close around to closing time. So now time for the font madness. Now if we zoom in on this here, we zoom in on this font, it looks like, you know, Photoshop can make 3D, but nobody really using the 3D in Photoshop. It's not intuitive and user friendly yet. So we kind of faking our 3D. But I'm gonna show you how we can make this right here. This look like it's two layers, right? Look like there's a gold layer and then there's a silver layer in the background, or not even a silver layer. But I'm gonna show you how we're gonna accomplish this. So let's first type out the font. All right, let's see, birthday. And let's blow it up. There's a few ways you can blow it up. I just like to drag the toolie like that. And let's see if we can find a closer font to what's already here. So let's go from Desire to I just seen it right here. We'll just use Action because it's kind of thick. All right, and that's not quite the font, but I can thin it out by just squeezing it. All right, we'll stick with this here. So now let me show you how we can make something like this. It's all about colors and painting and things like that. So we already got a yellow, and it looked like we got like a browner up there and a little bit of brown in the middle with the bottom gold. There's two ways we can do this. We can actually go up in here, and I'll show you how to use the gradient tool to get it accomplished. But before we use the gradient tool, what we got to do is we have to make a selection of this. So let's hold Control, click the letters, and now we got a selection, right? So you're probably going to hold Command and go over to the layers and click it. That's how you make a selection, right? Now what I like to do is once I make a selection, I'm going to paint in there, but I don't want to paint on the original text. So I'm going to make another layer, and whatever painting we're going to do is going to be on its own layer. So now let's go up here to the gradient tool. I probably definitely should have broke these little layers down, or just training down to small little bits of information, because you're going to be taking a lot of notes here. And it looked like my computer's taking a little bit of time to try to get this gradient thing up, so just bear with me. But anyway, there is going to be two ways you can create this effect. Okay, I don't know why is this not, oh, do I have to click that? Yeah. Sorry about that. I had to click that up there. I'm sorry, man. Anyway, you want to go to the gradient editor. And what we're trying to duplicate is this. Dark, yellow, orange, dark brown, and then yellow at the bottom. So to accomplish that, you use these here. So we're going to click this, and it's going to ask us, well, what color do you want right here? So right here we see that it's got this little orangey type color. So we can actually click that color there, and it will automatically give us that color. But I want it just a little bit brighter. So we're going to do that, get a little brighter. Then for this middle part here, we got to click here, right? When we click there, it's going to ask us what color do we want in here for this section. So we can click in there. So you see how we got the top brown, then we got that right there. All right. Now, what about this color? Well, let's click that, and that automatically assign that color to that right there. Now this one here is a little darker, right? So let's click there, get a little darker. No. Right there. I want it a little bit more darker. So I'll click that and just drag it down a little bit, make it a little darker. All right. And then we got the orange again. So let's click this and click that orange. And this right here kind of lets you know how tight you want it, or how blurry you want it, or how faded you want it. And then last but not least, we got this last one, which is yellow, and we can click this here and take it from black and actually here make it yellow. Well, that's like yellow white, but I want it yellower. So let's do that. Drag that up to yellow. Okay, so now we have the gradient right here. We hit OK, and all we have to do here is make sure we have a separate layer, and then we got our gradient tool. We done made our color up here. We simply drag and drop like that. So now we got that color. Now that's one way you can do it. That's probably the best and easiest way, but I like a little bit more flexibility. But before we talk about the flexibility, let's deselect. We're gonna make another layer, right? Let's hold Control, click again, right? Make another layer, because now we gotta address the background, the white, remember? So let's go, now let's select white, or better yet, go to our gradient tool again. Because if we look here, let's take a look at this. It looks like we have a dark, a white, a gray, almost black. Well, let's use this side. Almost black, white, and dark again. So we make a gradient tool matching those colors. So let's go back over here. I hope I ain't lost you, Chuy. Let's click that, and let's call this gold. We want to save that. Gold. We'll just say gold 1 and hit new. Okay, now let's change these colors. So we're going to, we know that that's going to be like dark gray. This is going to be white, right? This is going to be dark gray again. This is going to be white. And this is going to be dark gray again. I'm gonna make it a little darker just to be fancy. And this right here, we can just no, it's a way you can delete it. Let's see, can we delete that? Yeah, that right. We can just delete that. Now we want to stretch these and pull these so that this can have the whole size of the ladder. So we'll drag these around a little bit, and you might want to play around with it yourself just to get familiar with it. I don't use it a whole lot, but this is definitely how you can get a lot done. And we hit OK, and now we go over to our layer, back to our layer here, our birthday layer. Let's hold Control, click that ladder, and then click the above ladder, because this is where we want the gradient to be. And now we put our white gradient. So make sure that that layer is clicked so we can have our tool, and we drag and drop. And now so that'll be our background. So let's deselect that, deselect, and let's cut this layer on. And so we know that this layer is on top, and we know this layer is behind. And now what we want to do is shift it so that you can see it. So while it's selected, I'm just going to hit my down arrow to move it down and like to the right. And so now we got this like this 3D type of effect. It's fake, but you know, it still get the job done. And that is how you come up with that right there. That's how you come up with that. Now me personally, I would do a few more things. So we're going to take it a step further on the things that I would do. I would select the top, and I would probably put some type of border or some type of ridge around it. So we're going to go to Layer, Style, and Bevel Emboss. And now you see it, just a little something, and it looks like it's already set up. But if you want to, you can pause this. You can write down all this information, you know, like color dodge, multiply, 90 degrees, 30, enter, smooth, up, you know, size 4. You know, you can write all this information down and get that same exact effect. This look like it's a gloss contour. A gloss couture. Look like it's that one right there. All right, and you can write all this information down, and that'll put you that border for you. All right. Now there's a million and one ways you can get something done, but this is how I would approach it based on my knowledge of Photoshop, and that's how you're going to approach it now based on your knowledge of Photoshop. All right, so let's get our eraser tool, and we're going to kind of smooth out this image here by erasing and making his bottom part just kind of flow and blurry. All right, kind of just fade off into nothing. All right, and as a matter of fact, let's select a layer, create a new layer under him. Right, we're going to create a layer behind him, and we're going to get a black paintbrush and just kind of just paint black. So again, so that we can have what? Contrast. We want to have some contrast between the letters and the words. So with that, we're going to do that. Let's pick this thing again, and we're going to pick a brush, a blurry or a fade type brush. Okay, and we're going to double click this, and let's just paint behind him. And of course, we're going to have to move those things ahead. Okay, so the reason why we got that there, and it actually looked like it's a little dark in there too, so we can blow that up even more. And I'll say that right there, that right there, that there, boom, just something like that. And we'll just make sure that this layer is behind all the other layers, so they won't be covering up nothing. Okay, all right, so we're pretty close. We got some birds in there. I think I might have some birds. Let me just see if I got some birds I could just kind of just throw up in there. We got bullets. I don't know if we're gonna have a bullet party, but let's see if we got some birds. We got microphones, airplanes, wings. I know I got some doves somewhere. Let's see, nature. Street props. There we go, doves. All right. A few of them birds flying around hither and thither. Okay. And we'll just take those birds and we'll move them above, and then we'll erase what we don't need. So let's oh, we got to rasterize that, remember? So let's rasterize that, and look like this is the same. Look, that's the same exact bird right there. Oh, almost. All right, so I'm gonna shrink this eraser down, and we erase this out of his face. We can erase this one. We can erase this one, and you don't have to have a million birds flying around him. Well, one right there, that one back there might be cool, and this will be enough. Okay, no big deal. You ain't gotta have 1,000 birds flying around. Okay, cool. Here, shift it a little bit. All right, that's good. Okay, and then the bash. The bash is pretty easy too, since we already got that brush made up that we made. Here, let's get this square tool. Let's go to another layer, create another layer, and go ahead and make a box. Boom. We make the box. We get our gradient tool, and we find it. Let's click it. I made it, right? Do you remember I made it? There you go. We click it, hit OK, and then we can make our gradient tool. You see? So that's how we get that done. That's how that's done. We deselect that, and to get this bash in there, what we're going to do here is we're going to type inside there. So let's type bash, capital letters, and scale it up, and it looks like it's looking like we need to change the font. So that font would be look like it could be that. It's not that. We can actually find a font that's closer, but guess what? For the sake of this tutorial, we're going to stick to that. And then what you want to do to get it stretched out, like you see how it's stretched out there, we use this tool here, this VA tool. And what that does is it stretches out the font so that it can span over, you know, a certain amount of space. So we go over here to this VA tool and we just move it like that until we get it to where we want it, and that's how we spread it out. I'm gonna just try to stay close to the original image. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to pick a font close to what's happening here. That looked like a basic Arial font. So if I can just find that. Photoshop start acting real funny when I pull these fonts out. That's the only thing I don't like about the new Photoshop. It moves way too slow when I pull up their fonts. There's Arial right there. But see, it's acting up now. I'm gonna pause this until it register. Okay, Chuy, we back in action. I just went on and used that. But what I'm gonna do here is this, because this box looks like it's a little thinner. So I'm gonna hold Shift and we're gonna shrink that to a smaller size. And then we're gonna get this bash here, slide this up, shrink it down. And then spread that out. Okay, so we have the majority of the flyer done. Now what's left is the fonts and the text, and then this little design, and you pretty much know how we put that design together. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end the session here. When I come back, we're going to finish up this ticket. I'm gonna show you how this is done, and then I'm gonna show you how these text was done, which is pretty much the same how that was done. But I got a little bit explaining to do about text sizes, text use, placement, how you choose the text, and why you choose certain texts. I'm gonna discuss that with you on the next session. And what else? I'm gonna teach you a little bit about typography, and we're gonna go over some magazine covers, and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about when it comes to typography. What's good typography, what's bad typography, and why learning typography is important. The people that make the best flyers in the world are people that is best at typography. When you're good at typography, you don't even need to know how to design flyers, or you don't need images or nothing. If you're an expert at typography, you can make anything look good. And the ones that's good at typography are the ones that make the best type logos. They make good logos because they understand balance, weight, size, and they also understand the language of typography. For example, cursive writing as opposed to, you know, brick writing as opposed to serif, or as opposed to type writing, things like that. They all have different meanings. Like some types is used for Bible scriptures. Some type of fonts is used for Bible scriptures because Bible scriptures is important. It's something that have to be, it's something that's taken serious, and it's something that has to be memorable, and it's something that sticks to our heart. So you can't just use any type of font for that. Then you have different type of fonts for funerals, or a name of a person that passed away, where their name might not be in bold letters because they are passed away. So you're not going to use bold letters in a flyer, because that's something it's too aggressive. You need something more soft, something more elegant, with curls and swirls. It's more relaxing. So there's a state of mind, there's psychology, and there's science behind fonts, text, and things like that. So that in itself is a separate tutorial, and I'll go over that with you on the next session. But what I want you to do is practice these, see if you can redo this flyer in the same way that I did, and then I'm going to come back and pick up where we left off with the typography as far as that. All right, so go ahead and learn these things, master these, and I'm going to a meeting right now, but as soon as I get back, I'm gonna finish up the rest of it with those other details, and I'll be uploading that for you too. All right, I'll be talking to you soon. Thank you again for your patience, and let's get this work done. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye bye.